Leafcutter ants. They are not just insects but a superorganism. Why? Because if separated, an ant will die. But when combined, they form a giant, extremely intelligent creature. A leafcutter ant, if you look at it at first glance, is a tiny red dot. But if you zoom in, it is a giant carrying a 340-kilogram rock on its shoulder, running continuously at a speed of 26 kilometers per hour. The strongest human on the planet cannot carry a cow on its back and run a marathon at that sprint speed. They do it continuously, day after day. Do you think humans are the first species to know how to do agriculture? You are wrong. Ants have known how to grow crops since the time when dinosaurs were not yet extinct. Leafcutter ants bring leaves back to their nests not to eat, but to grow mushrooms. This process is so professional that even Ford or Toyota factories have to take their hats off. The big, strong ants cut the leaves and bring them back. The smaller ones chop them into pieces. The smaller ones chew it into powder. And finally, the tiny ants, smaller than the letters you are reading, grow mushrooms and pull weeds. No one directs anyone. No one fights over anyone's work. This division of labor is based entirely on body size. You are big, you carry heavy loads. You are small, you work meticulously. There is no son of a boss or begging for positions here. The most magical thing about this superbody is the absence of a leader. We often call the biggest ant deep in the nest the queen ant. But in reality, she does not give orders. She is locked in the dark, a passive egg-laying machine, giving birth to millions of children, but not ruling anyone. So what controls this empire of 3 million people to obey orders? How do they coordinate so well? They do not use Zalo or email. They use scent. When an ant finds food, it secretes a chemical from its antenna. This substance is so powerful that just 1 milligram, which is the equivalent of a tiny speck of dust, if spread properly, is enough to guide a colony of ants around the earth 3 times. If an ant gets lost, its antennae will immediately detect the absence of scent in just a few milliseconds and adjust its direction immediately. The scent signal replaces the command. Imagine your company running smoothly, revenue skyrocketing, without a CEO or department head. Ants have been doing this for millions of years. Why do ants go to the trouble of cutting tons of leaves and bringing them back to the nest? Don't mistake them for salad parties. In fact, the stomachs of these ants are completely unable to handle the tough fiber of leaves. Therefore, they bring the leaves back to grow mushrooms. The mushrooms secrete special enzymes to decompose the leaf pulp that the ants have crushed, converting the indigestible cellulose into proteins and easily absorbed nutrients. Then, the ants will eat these pure white mushroom threads. This is the only food source that feeds the entire kingdom of millions of people, from the queen ant to the worker ants. Without mushrooms, the ants will starve to death right on the pile of leaves. Without ants bringing back leaves, the mushrooms will dry up. It is a permanent survival contract that neither side can break. The most touching and tragic story is the entrepreneurial journey of a queen ant when she started building her empire. After the only mating flight of her life, she lost her wings and fell to the ground, completely alone. She had to dig a hole to bury herself. But how can you grow mushrooms without seeds? It turns out that before leaving her mother's house, she secretly held a small handful of mushrooms in her mouth, hidden carefully, in a bag under her tongue. In that dark hole, she spit out the mushrooms, fertilized them with her own waste, and then laid eggs on them. When the first batch hatched, she even had to sacrifice and feed her own eggs. It took a whole year for her to go from a single mother with nothing to a 1,000-strong army and become a passive egg-laying machine. It was an extraordinary sacrifice and patience that not every startup can do. What can we learn from this, besides seeing that ants are more than just insects swarming around a jar of sugar? The power of specialization. Ant societies function perfectly because each individual knows exactly what they are suited to and does it best. In life, don't try to do everything. Find your size, your strengths, and contribute to the superorganism, family, company in that position. Communication is key. Ants don't need 4-hour meetings every day. They just need a precise chemical signal. The lesson here is, communicate clearly, concisely, and with the right signal. Sometimes a small action, like a scent trail, is worth more than 1,000 words. The persistent startup spirit. The image of a queen ant digging a tunnel alone, holding a handful of mushrooms in her mouth to build an empire, is a great lesson in perseverance. When you start a new project, you may feel lonely, deprived, and even have to fertilize your idea yourself. But if you persistently protect that mushroom, one day you will have a whole kingdom. Finally, when you see an ant colony, do not see just insects. See a great lesson in cooperation, discipline, and silent sacrifice that nature has taught us for millions of years.